Welcome to IVF This, episode 70, the Think, Feel, Do cycle.
Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. I'm a mother to two beautiful and feral boys. I'm married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're all doing so well. It is full-blown allergy season here in Texas, so I probably sound like I have cotton up my nose and like I've just finished running a 5K. I promise I'm not running. I just can't breathe. It's totally fine. Alas, we have a podcast to record. So today I'm going to go in depth around the framework that I use in my coaching practice. This cycle that I'm going to talk about was seriously the thing that changed my entire life, my entire outlook on my life. When I understood how thoughts impact feelings and how feelings drive the things we do or the actions that we take, guys, it was mind-blowing. And now before we start down that route, which we'll have plenty of time to cover, I want to pause for some listener love. And this one comes from user Caitlin Liu. I pray I'm not butchering that. And the title is A Godsend for Women Dealing with Infertility. Infertility is one of the hardest experiences a person can go through. Emily's podcast is full of empathetic, spot-on advice for surviving it. These episodes are broken down into bite-sized, actionable chunks so you can start implementing these tools and hopefully start to feel a little bit better right away. I wish it existed the first time I went through IVF. I cannot recommend it enough. Thank you so much, Emily, for this amazing contribution, and good luck to everyone out there waiting to grow their families. Thank you so much for taking the time to rate and review the podcast. And you're welcome, first of all. And I also completely echo your beautiful sign-off. Good luck to each and every one of you that are waiting to grow your families. I think that is such a lovely sign-off for our beautiful, beautiful community. And also, I'm not going to lie, I love reading these comments just because this is why I do this. To know that it makes a difference in your life, that it helps you sometimes just get through the day, or that you learn something from the podcast that you maybe helps you feel less alone, just makes it all worthwhile for me because let's be honest, it is a little bit of a labor of love. It takes several hours a week to research, write, record. Now, I don't do any of the editing. That's my amazing producer, Anthony, but it still takes several hours a week. So this very much is a labor of love and my free offering to this world and to our beautiful community. And so it just really helps keep me motivated and going. So thank you very much for taking the time. If you haven't already and the platform that you use offers you the opportunity to rate and review, please do so, only because it helps other people find the podcast a little bit easier, makes it more searchable, makes it more visible. If you don't have a platform like Google or Spotify don't offer opportunities to rate and review, if you wouldn't mind sharing it if you're on social media in any of the infertility or IVF groups, things like that, just to help get the word out so that one less person is suffering or one less person feels alone. I would love that and I would appreciate that. All right, let's get into today's topic, the Think, Feel, Do cycle. Did you know that there's a connection between the thoughts you think, the feelings you feel, and the actions that you do or don't take? I mean, you probably did because you probably heard me mention it on the podcast. And the intro also answered that question. But I didn't really know this for a long time. I think I understood it conceptually that there were connections, but I didn't really understand the true nature of those connections. I was a student of psychology. That's a lot of what social work is based in. So I was very familiar with these concepts. And I understood the classic CBT understanding of thoughts creating feelings, feelings driving actions, all that. That is the backbone of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. But I think it was a case of intellectually understanding something and really getting it, like in your bones, understanding it. I didn't understand the causal connection between my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. In other words, until my coach first broke it down for me, which is how I approach it. She wrote it out on a whiteboard, which is something that I still do with my clients to this day. She wrote it out on a whiteboard so that I could actually visually see the thought that created the feeling and what the feeling was doing for my actions, like actions or inactions. I did not understand how powerful my brain was, how powerful your brain is. I didn't understand why sometimes I felt motivated and other times I didn't. I didn't understand why sometimes I felt insecure and sometimes completely confident. And why sometimes I would do things that I wanted to do, and sometimes I just couldn't seem to figure out how to get myself to do the thing that I wanted to do, like exercise or something like that. And I think this is really information that we should all have. This should be stuff that is taught in primary school along with reading, writing, and arithmetic. I will probably teach you the rest of the story, which is the tool that I teach all of my clients. I believe that's the secret to the universe. I strongly believe that the better you understand the connection, number one, the more compassionate you are with yourself and others, which is a game changer in and of itself. But it also teaches you a level of awareness around yours and other people's actions that's honestly invaluable. I used to be so reactive, and let's be clear, I'm not perfect at this. It still happens, but to such a lesser extent. I used to get trapped in overwhelm so easily. And that black and white thinking that we've been talking about on the podcast before, took up a lot of my time. What I'm referring to right now is the self-coaching model, and I will teach that in a future episode. But right now, I just want you to start opening your mind up to this think, feel, do cycle and notice how it plays out. We have to create a lot of awareness around the things that we think, the things that we do, before we can really start implementing other stuff, right? Because if this is the first time you've ever been exposed to this think, feel, do cycle, then me teaching you the self-coaching model isn't going to be very beneficial because it's going to be like information overload. So we want to space this out. We just want to open your brain up to some possibilities, to a way of thinking about things that's really important. So here's the basics. Then I'm going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to give you some homework. The basics are that the thoughts that you think cause feelings. Not things that happen to us in the world, but our thoughts about them. Our thoughts are what cause our emotions. And emotions, feelings, are what fuel us to do things or not do things. It is all connected. One causes the other. So it's a connection that we want to understand so that we can start looking for how it plays out in our lives. So your thoughts create your feelings drive your actions or your inactions. What you think creates how you feel, and how you feel determines what you do. It is that simple. So let me give you a few examples specifically that I have talked through with my clients or that you might relate to during infertility. You have a bunch of sharps, needles, and used up medication boxes from your last IVF cycle. You're taking a break for a bit, but you still haven't cleaned that part out, and you're not sure why. It's not as if you will be reusing this stuff, but you just kind of hold on to it. Why? Because of a feeling. So what are the potential feelings? Maybe you feel like a failure. That's a feeling, a really uncomfortable feeling. Maybe it's tied to a feeling of longing, like this was my quote unquote, my chance type of longing. Both of those are incredibly painful and uncomfortable feelings. Maybe you feel weak, which is another crappy feeling to feel. Maybe you're telling yourself, I can't handle throwing it away. That comes up a lot. Like if I throw it away, it kind of means I'm throwing this opportunity away or I'm walking away from all of it. All of those feelings, again, terrible. They feel terrible. So the action, or rather inaction, is for you to do nothing. Because, and this is incredibly important, you will never be able to create sustained positive action from a negative feeling. That's just not how it works. So we get caught in this negative spin cycle of feeling and inaction. And then comes the judgment, which has its own think, feel, do cycle. And we just keep perpetuating this cycle over and over and over again. Now, conversely, if you believe that you are strong enough to handle this and more, then that thought would create a different feeling, perhaps strong. And because feelings are what drive us to do things, they're what fuel our behavior. If you're feeling strong, you might be much more likely to go about the work of making decisions about cleaning out your old supplies or whatever next step is in your journey that you wanted to take, things like that. Another one might be that you believe that you won't be happy until you have your big fat positive or you bring that baby home. This one is incredibly common. So let's say that a thought like this creates a feeling like despair or hopelessness. So when you feel that way, you might be more inclined to self-isolate, to indulge in a victim mentality. And this isn't a call out. This is just how our brains work. Okay. Or maybe because of this belief, you start seeing your world through the lens of despair and hopelessness, ruminating on all of the things in your life that feel hopeless. Our brains do a phenomenal job of generalizing things. So when we hold on to a belief that this one thing is feeling hopeless, our brains will automatically extrapolate that to mean that everything or most things in our life feel hopeless. You with me so far? Okay. How about an example outside of infertility? Let's say you want to apply for a promotion or ask for a raise. Maybe that's something you've been thinking about doing. That's an action that you would like to take, but you haven't been able to make yourself do it yet. Maybe you're nervous or hesitant. Those are feelings. If you're nervous or hesitant, you're probably not going to take the action that you want to take. Why would you be nervous or hesitant? Well, thoughts create feelings. So maybe you're thinking something like, I'm not qualified, or they might not give it to me, or they might tell me no. So those thoughts would cause you and any human, most likely, to feel very nervous and hesitant. And then the action that we would take is actually inaction. We won't put ourselves out there. We don't ask for the raise. We don't ask for the promotion or the new job. But what if you believed instead that the thought that you were qualified or that you were capable of learning? Then those thoughts would create different feelings. Maybe you would be feeling determined or qualified. And from those emotions, you would take different actions. You would ask for the raise. You would apply for the promotion, the new job. What is the action that you're taking that you don't understand why you're doing it? What is the action that you want to take but haven't yet? Pick something. What is an action that you're willing to change? For me, one thing that I have been thinking a lot about is once I have my baby is losing the baby weight. This is my third kiddo. I have gained weight. I have previously gained weight with the other pregnancies, and I have always lost the pregnancy weight. But there is something about this pregnancy and weight loss associated following this pregnancy that I have a lot of thoughts about. Thoughts like, it's going to be harder this time. I'm older. I didn't stay as active during this one because I was really sick for a lot of it. I bet you can imagine what those thoughts are creating for me. When I think the thought it's going to be hard, then I feel a sense of dread. When I feel dread, then the action that I take is complete inaction. I don't reach out for support. I don't commit to a goal. I can talk myself out of almost anything if that is just based on the feeling of dread. As long as I keep choosing these thoughts, then it will be hard. It will seem impossible, and I'm not going to create the emotion that will fuel the action that I want to take. I'm going to have to change the story that I tell myself if I want to generate a different emotion. Now, I used to think that if I didn't feel motivated to do something, then there was nothing I could do about it. If I wasn't feeling creative, which is a feeling, then there was nothing I could do about it. That I would have to just wait for emotions to float down the river and just magically appear in my body. And until they did, well, I guess today was not the day. I'm just worried about it, so I guess there's nothing I can do. I'm feeling unmotivated, so I guess I'll just start tomorrow. Not true. We can create feelings at will. We can use our brain, the most powerful instrument that I'm aware of, to generate the emotions we want to feel to fuel the actions we want to take. So I can change what's going on in my brain by consciously choosing to think, I have a proven track record for losing my baby weight. I'm willing to be uncomfortable so that I can, again, feel more comfortable in my body. I'm willing for it to be awkward. I'm an awkward kind of gal, so it's pretty easy to feel awkward. It's comfortable for me. I'm willing for it to be hard. And then these emotions I feel are so different than worried or dread. Now I'm feeling willing and open and inspired. And from that place, I can take the action of committing to this goal that I have. I can take the action necessary for meal planning, attending daily coaching calls, movement, all of the things that I have done previously. None of that is outside of me. And when I know how to make my brain work for me in that way to create an emotion that I want to feel, then I can do whatever I want. And that's what I want for you. So what is it you want to change? How do you need to feel to do that thing? And what do you need to believe to create that feeling for yourself? You can absolutely do that. This process can be a little bit more nuanced than that sometimes. Sometimes we can't go through the thought that creates the emotion right in the moment because maybe we just don't believe it yet, and that's okay. That's one of the reasons I coach on this all the time, because I help people do that. I help people figure out how to believe new things. But before we can ever believe new things, first we need to understand why we would even want to do that. Because nobody's teaching us how to create emotions at will. Nobody's teaching us how powerful our brains are. Nobody's teaching us it's unnecessary for us to feel powerless or frustrated or for us to be confused about why we're taking the actions that we want to take. All of that. It's actually quite simple. We think a thought, it creates a feeling. The feeling fuels an action or an inaction. I'll give you one more because I get a lot of clients who are asking me about this idea of how do I think differently that I'm never going to be a mom, right? That belief comes up for a lot of us. I held on to that belief for a very long time. I'm never going to be a mom. If that's your thought, think it now. What's the emotion, the feeling that thought creates in your body? Probably hopelessness, resignation, maybe certainty, but not like a stable certainty, like a terrible certainty. I'm never going to be a mom. And now I feel hopeless. Well, what do I do when I feel hopeless as it relates to infertility? Well, a lot of that is going to be what's happening in your brain. The do can feel more like thoughts or internal actions, not just physical actions. So something you might quote unquote do with that thought is sit and ruminate on how long this journey has been, how terrible it is, how easy it is for other people, how the universe is trying to tell you something about your worthiness or about your future, which, P.S., spoiler alert, it's not. The universe isn't telling you anything. Just that's a bullshit thought, just so you know. Those are actions that you're taking. Even though they're still in your thoughts, that's what I mean when I say it can be more nuanced. An action you might take is to spend a lot of time in infertility Facebook groups or scour the internet researching. Now, I've talked about how I think the Facebook groups and Google can be invaluable resources to us, but they can also be pretty poisonous. And this is an example that I often offer. Because how our brains have this built-in negativity bias, which I have a whole episode dedicated to that if you want to check that out. Because we have this negativity bias, we could find people with the exact same story as us, or, close enough. And let's say we have 100 people with a nearly identical story, and 99 of them have had success, and one of them did not. Which one do you think you're going to give more weight to? That's right. The one story. That is how our brains are wired. It's not a character defect. It's just how our brains work. So we've got this rumination. We've got throwing ourselves into forums, groups, and research, which is essentially just creating confirmation bias based on the original thought of, I'm never going to be a mom. That will create more of the same. That one thought creates that one feeling, which drives all of the actions and inactions. So when you tell yourself things like that, you need to understand the feeling that it's creating, the emotional impact of that thought that we have, may or may not realize that we are choosing to think, and then seeing how that feeling is fueling our actions. What if instead, I'll never be a mom, you actually believed, one day I'll be a mom? Or if that's too far-fetched, try, one day it's possible I will be a mom. That's not quite as much of a reach, right? I bet you wouldn't feel so hopeless. Not that you have to feel hopeful, maybe more curious. I wonder if we tried this, if that would work. Maybe it might, make you feel more willing, which again is an emotion, and it can be part of the thought, I'm willing to see if this works. You don't have to make the pendulum swing from I'm never going to get this to this is a guarantee. Your brain probably won't accept that. So we have to start a little bit closer to the original thought, which is a process called the thought ladder. And again, I have an entire episode that you can check out if you're interested. Again, I'm going to continue harping on this. All of our thoughts create all of our feelings. So you don't need someone else to think our thoughts. But just consider this. What is it that you want to accomplish? What is the action you want to take? Or what is the action you're taking that you don't really understand why you're taking it? We just reverse engineer it. What am I feeling that has me doing or not doing this action? And what am I thinking that's creating that feeling for me? And if I want it to be different, I probably have to be thinking and feeling something different than what I'm thinking and feeling now. And since they're all connected, and since it's something you can control, play around with it a little bit. I like to think of thoughts. I know that sounds funny, but I like to think of thoughts as like going into a dressing room with a bunch of clothes and I'm just trying them on, right? None of this is fact. There are universal truths in this world, and then there are opinions. And there are far more opinions than there are universal truths. So I could slip on, let's say, a nice silhouette of a thought that says, I will be able to do X, Y, Z. That's going to help me feel a certain way. A thought that might make me feel empowered might not give you the same feeling because it's completely dependent on the person. So have fun with your thoughts. Play around with them. We don't have to take them so seriously. All right. Good fun. We're just going to use this a lot so we get used to the whole think, feel, do connection. You are so much more powerful than you think you are. I promise you that. Even if it doesn't feel like that, even if that's the farthest thing from what you understand your truth to be right now, that's fine. Even if you don't remember that, I will always be here to remind you of that fact. All right, my beautiful friends, that is what I have for you this week. Have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.